The Roots of Success podcast is for the landscape professional who's looking to up their game. We've got a brain trust of experts to help you nurture the roots of a successful business and grow to the next level. This is the Roots of Success.
Hey, welcome to another awesome episode, Roots of Success podcast. I'm your host, Tommy Cole, and I've got another awesome guest, my sort of new friend that I met in Orlando many weeks back. We kind of had some good conversation. And I was like, this is a really awesome dude that we got to have on our show. Mark Sedgley, the of LMN Single Ops. And you may be wondering, like, whoa. This is where we get really some good questions and get some feedback of the big news that was launched last fall of the merger of LMN Single Ops. Welcome to the show, Mark. How are you?
Awesome, man. And I love the energy and I love the welcome. I can't say enough about our time together in Orlando, the mastermind event. And I got to know you. I've gotten to know McFarland Stanford, Jason, and, the team, Chris.
Yeah.
And so in a short amount of time, I feel like, we're already, best friends and comrades in arms. So thank you for having me on the show. Tommy, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. So we met finally in Orlando at a mastermind event. And I was like, man, who's this guy, Mark? Like, it's Mark, and there's another Mark involved and all that. But we sat down at a fun restaurant for hours and just kind of talked about everything about business, where we are in our company, where you are in your company. And we talked about, general life and raising kids and hiking and all kinds of like
all of it.
Medicine and all kinds of fun stuff. I was like, whoa, this is going to be right up our alley. So, Mark, if you're living under a rock, you have no idea what's going on, give us an intro, kind of like about your past, and let's learn more about you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I kind of grew up as an entrepreneur, and I think I have a pretty similar story to lots of folks across America, which has tied me kind of like this through line to LMN and Single Ops and the landscaping and tree care community, which is my first job as a high schooler was, a lawnmower sticking out of the trunk and a weed whacker. That's what we called it in East
Oh,
Tennessee.
that's great. Yeah.
And a blower. And, just driving around the neighborhood, knocking on doors to see if I could cut their lawn for $20, And ever since then, I've just kind of always wanted to do my own thing. And so I helped start a company called MemberClicks. The way that folks in this community could connect to MemberClicks is if you've ever been a member of like the National Association of Landscape Professionals or your local state association. When you would log into those associations' websites and register for an event or pay your dues or update your profile, there was a good chance it was my software called MemberClicks. And so I've just always had an entrepreneurial thing. I really like working for myself. I like making an impact and feeling that impact. And so from there, I sold MemberClicks. And since then, it's kind of been a practice to take over for founders and take the great businesses that they've created to the next level. And so that's how I came to Single Ops back in 23. I took over for the founder of Single Ops. Single Ops is focused more on tree care.
Right.
We do have landscape customers because what I've noticed, Tommy, is there's lots of businesses that have like, multifaceted lines of businesses that do landscape, hardscape, design, build, tree care, all the above. And so I took over that business. And one of the things that I kept looking around and seeing is like, how do we actually get into the landscape kind of, community and really do it in a meaningful way? And I started looking around the marketplace and I saw one company that was super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And that company was LMN. And so I reached out to Mark Bradley. I'm sure your listeners know exactly who Mark Bradley is.
Yeah.
He's kind of a legend in the space. He's given back to the community. He's starting a new gig called Leanscaper, which we're huge supporters and fans of. But when I called him, he was the CEO and founder of LMN. And I just said, hey, Mark, you look like you know what you're talking about. I've watched your stuff online. You've got a great company. Do you mind teaching me a thing or two about the industry? I'm a new guy. Maybe we can become frenemies, And Mark's answer, probably not to anybody's surprise, was like, sure. And so he spent, an hour with me on a Zoom call. And then it was a great conversation. We hit it off. He thinks about things in a lot of ways similar to the way that I think about him, about building teams, leaning into mission, creating impact in an industry. And so then I made up a reason to be in Toronto, Tommy. And I said, like, hey, man, do you like, red wine and steak? Fingers crossed he says yes. And he did. And so we had a dinner, and then the relationship just evolved. And when Mark decided that he was ready for, I think he's calling it version 4.0
Yeah.
in his journey, he gave me a call and said, hey, I'd like for you to participate and maybe take a run at LMN as a potential business opportunity.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
And then in October of last year, at the very end of October last year, we were able to cement the deal. And so ever since then, we've kind of just been, running and gunning and, doing all the stuff that you do when you're putting companies together.
That's fascinating. What made you, this is in a perspective of owners and managers in the landscape world. You're kind of, you and I are similar. When you see something, you go after it. Like it's something about a feeling or a connectedness of something. I'm this fan of that as well. If I see something and it feels good and I feel like this is the right way, I just go, right?
Right.
You go. Like, talk about that experience when you're like, man, we're looking at LMN and that's the reason why. What made you commit and just go and not overthink it?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's a great question. I don't think I'm smart enough to overthink anything, Tommy. So I think that's like one of those blessings in my life. It's like you just, don't overthink it, man. Yeah, exactly. There's some things about the LMN that are just undeniable, right? Like the LMN customer are small businesses, small to medium sized businesses, right? And they range in size and success and revenue levels. But at the end of the day, they're the folks within their communities that are like hiring people, creating jobs, creating economy, right? Connecting communities through enhancing like the outdoor appeal and living spaces that people like to congregate in. Like, so first and foremost, the community, the customer, the type of customer was like the most magical thing for me about the LMN customer base. Cause you have different types of software that are on the market, and Mark and the LMN team focus right in that kind of dead middle, like where the majority of the landscape community sits. And also it's the community that really can thrive through the power of software. And so that's something that I'm deeply attracted to is how do you create ripple impact, not just in, your company's life or your employees' lives, but your customers' lives, your customers' communities' lives, and creating that ripple to kind of keep going out in a meaningful way. Like that's like one of the number one things that attracted me to LMN. And then I started looking at the software, and it's living out its mission of like impacting an entire industry and unlocking landscapers' potential through powerful budgeting tools, through the ability to like get deals out faster and separate themselves from the competition, to tracking time and making sure that owners have the confidence, like to trust their numbers, to trust the growth, to be able to trust and take the systems out of their heads and put it into an actual system to empower their team members and their employees. And all that stuff, Tommy, connects to creating ripple, and the software allows customers to do that. And to me, that's like super meaningful and powerful. And so if you can connect those dots, you can create an awesome experience for your customers. You think you can build, powerful teams that believe in a mission at the same time, then it's just a win.
Yeah. It's fascinating to hear this. The word software just has a effect, right? It's kind of like, it's the one question that I get, Tommy, what do you recommend? And what do you, and I'll say this till forever and ever and ever, like pick one and go with it. Like, that's it. You're not an engineer. You're not a software builder. They've done all the hard work. Go all in on it, right? So like, I want to make an announcement, say, let's not call it software. Let's just call it the community.
Right. Yeah.
Community and jump in and what I like about the LMN community is it's a collective group of people that want the same thing. That's really what it is. Right. So we're going to announce no software. It's called community. Join the community.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
To move forward.
That's right. I actually love that because it is a community.
Yeah.
And, LMN now is approaching over 5,000 community members, right? And if you think about that, Tommy, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
is thinking through ways you can leverage the community to drive, solutions to
Yeah.
common problems across the board, right? And so I actually think, when you think about, software, you do think about community first. How are you making an impact on a community? How are you actually creating and driving results for them and their day-to-day stuff, like the stuff that's not easy to solve. Like it's hard, right?
Wow.
Running a small business is hard. Do you agree with that? Like, I mean,
100%. It's
it
incredible
is,
to another level. I feel like you can be an owner operator to a certain point because you can do it all. But
yeah,
once you hit that threshold of I've got to lead people,
yeah.
that there's no amount of books and classes or
I
anything to
know,
take.
man.
Like none of that even matters. And that's
Yeah.
why I asked you earlier, like you just got to go in and go with it. I feel like software now community where you just got to jump into it and start using it.
It's really good advice too,
Yeah.
Tommy, because at the end of the day, like you really do have to kind of sink your teeth into it and go all in. Because what we see all the time is folks trying to like cherry pick parts of software, like not just Element, add single apps, add all my other previous, software kind of journeys. Is like the customers that are the happiest, the customers that thrive, the customers that like are raving fans and also really successful. I think of guys like Kevin Scott up in Muskoka,
Yeah. Great
Austin
guy.
Roth down in Florida. I think of Rick Miranda from Aquidneck Legworks up in Rhode Island. All of them are at like different journeys in their, like path to success and all at different revenue levels.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they've all sunk their teeth into it and said, like, I am going to use this software to help empower me to be more successful on a day in and day out basis. And like, I think that stuff is powerful. Like going around the country for the last 4 months, going to trade shows, going to customer sites, going to the mastermind event. I've just heard story after story after story that ties directly to what you said. The folks that lean in, the folks that embrace it, the folks that like try and leverage something to the fullest extent. It doesn't matter if it's software or anything else, a system. Mark Bradley talks a lot about the kind of lean system, like leaning into that stuff, no pun intended,
Yep.
and actually leveraging it makes the difference, like committing to it. And so I think you're right. I couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
it's a powerful tool. We hear a lot of information, and I heard this from you in our conversation. But the one thing that you guys have noticed in this industry is the lack of implementing the entire system. Right? It's like a piece here and a piece there, and then they kind of run into something that challenges them. And my recommendation is always keep moving forward and be 100% in it. If you're 30% into this system, you can't complain about it because you're 30% into it. Right? Like that's like always my advice, but you got to keep going. I feel like the people are the biggest asset, and that system that you use is the other asset. And when you put those two together, it's like a train that you can't stop.
Agreed.
So
Yeah, I mean, it
speak
just
about the importance of being all in on this and not piecemealing it. Well, and the other part, Marcus, this is the way we've always done it, Tommy. Right? If that's not the way, and so make your adjustments along the way.
you know, I think this is the way that we've always done it. It actually permeates across industry, across humans, across, specialties, right? Like you hear that every place you go, right? And my typical response to that is something's changed, right? Something in your business that might be the way you've always done it, but something in your business has changed. You have more employees,
Yeah.
you have more customers, right? You have multiple lines of businesses now, which you didn't have before, right? You have higher expectations, right? You have more revenue, right? You have different goals. Right. And so that might be the way you've always done it, but a lot around the way you've always done it has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's the power of something like, software for the community, which is like it continues to evolve, it continues to develop, it continues to adapt. Right. And so having a mindset, that open kind of growth mindset around, well, what can I be doing? What has changed in my business? And how can I leverage these tools in order to empower me to be more successful?
Yep.
I think it's a mindset shift and change that, you just kind of have to always lean into. I do agree that there's continuity and comfort in the way that we've always done it, for
Yeah.
sure. Right. Like, I mean, I'm a creature of habit, man. Like if I don't get up at 4:30 in the morning, get my coffee, do my journal, right? Like my gratitude journal, knock out a bunch of work before my kids and wife wake up, man, I fall apart. So that's the way I've always done it,
Yeah.
So there's like comfort in that. But I've also learned that, man, sometimes you travel, right? And sometimes you've got an early morning meeting, and sometimes the kids have got to get to school early, right? And all that stuff changes. And so, how you adapt to it and how you actually make the difference in terms of leveraging all the tools that are available to you to make you just as good as you were before, if not better, is really, really important. So I think the number one key is just have an open mind. And when you're sitting there saying to yourself, like, this is the way I've always done it, I don't feel like I'm getting as much as I need from whatever it is, whether it be LMN or, a system that you have in place, take a look around at what's changed then. Like, what are all the things that have changed around you? And you'll probably start to find like, oh, that's why it's not working as well as I wanted to.
Good point. Good point. Adaptable. A common question I get is when I meet people out on the road or calls is LMN is only for small big companies. And I'm like, what? Like, there's this myth. Explain why that is a completely incorrect statement and give me some examples of why that, I mean, we can define small. I don't know what small is in landscape anymore. Whatever that is, it could be 500,000 a year. It could be 8 million is small. Like, it doesn't matter, but explain why that's a myth and how you guys tackle that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you nailed it. Everybody's definition of small is different. And those three companies that I talked about earlier, Austin and Kevin and Rick, they're all three different levels of revenue. Some, approaching $20 million in revenue and some at $2 million in revenue, right? And so I would tell you that a 18 to $20 million landscape business, you're in the kind of top 3% of the marketplace, right? I mean, like
it's that big.
Yeah. And so if I'm going to use that definition, that's a big, large landscaping company. Yeah. And we have a lot of those types of companies in our customer portfolio, and they're amazing partners to us. And then we also have a lot of customers at the $2 million in revenue, which I still think is a very vibrant, growing, awesome business. Like, once you kind of, what I've seen in the marketplace, and I'm definitely not as like steeped as you are or Mark Bradley or anybody else, but when you have hundreds and thousands of conversations over a course of time, you start to see some patterns, right? And the patterns is like, there's like a breaking point somewhere around $1 million in revenue where the business just changes and it no longer feels small anymore, right? And so I would tell you it is a myth. We have customers, lots of customers. Like I said, we have, approaching 5,000 customers. 30-40% of those are north of $5 and $10 million, right? And so, like, we have really big, vibrant, large businesses that we serve every day. And we have big strategic partners that we serve through the LMN platform. And I think what happens is, like, when you start to go to events and LMN's desire to impact the entire community, not just a segment of the community, you start to create some of that, right? And you start to associate LMN with the smaller side of the businesses. Couldn't be further from the truth, and we know that we're leaning in and winning business every day from large landscape companies, but we're going to continue to make an impact on the entire industry, not just a segment of the industry. So,
yeah, very good. I often hear, let's see, there's so many good things to get into. I'm like pages of stuff to talk about. Like, I don't even know if we have enough time for this, but I asked you a question in Orlando, and your response was actually, I think you asked me the question, what was the biggest thing or what, a change? And we're going to get, not everything's perfect, right? And you guys are evolving, but you asked me a question like, what do you think we need to work on? And I said, there's some clunkiness to LMN, and your answer was spot on. And I was like, okay, this is the guy for the job. No discredit for anything in the past. I mean, I like the software a lot, and I'm a user of it. But explain your answer and what you're going to do about it. I was really impressed with it.
Yeah. I mean, so I think that, like, the LMN story is like an awesome story. Like, so when we talk about like improvement, you're taking something from really, really good to even better, right? And that's kind of first and foremost. Mark and Mike and Jenna, they came up through the industry. Like, these are folks that were out in the field and built a awesome landscape business, of real size and magnitude, right? And so the traditional software stories is like, okay, well, we're building software, we're solving problems, we're listening to customers, and we're building and we're building and we're building and we're building, right? And you're going as fast as you possibly can. That's normal, right? And then at some point in time, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and the features start to grow and grow and grow, you have to kind of retrench and say, all right, awesome, we've got this big depth and breadth of software solution, right? But not all of it like flows together as like fast as you would want it to. There's one too many clicks to get the job done that you want to get done. And it's natural that that happens because you're going so fast. And so one of the things that I think we'll be really good at is coming in and investing in that. Like, how do we make the core functionality? And I also think this speaks to your other question about whether you're $1 million landscape business or a $20 million landscape business. One thing I know is true. Everybody wants proposing, estimating, billing, invoicing, and scheduling to be fast and easy for their internal teams to be able to deliver on, right? And so you have to look at what are the core features that are used every single day. Like, you can see it. Like, we have great insights, like how often our products are used, like the key features that are being used. And then figure out a way, like, have a really strong strategy to go invest in making those as easy and intuitive as humanly possible to use. And that's going to appeal to everybody. And then once you build that foundation back up, you start to branch out and create really innovative tools that folks can leverage over a course of time that they're leveraging today, all day, every day. And they want those to be better. They don't want to have to use a different solution to do it. They don't want multiple software vendors to have to run their business. And so LMN is going to get simpler, faster, easier, more powerful for the day-to-day stuff that landscapers use. And then over a course of time, it's going to branch out and allow you to leverage it in a lot of different ways that you would have never imagined. Yeah.
That just gets me fired up, right?
Me too.
Should be. That exciting news. I mean, it's a great software. I highly recommend it, and I think you are the right person for this gig.
Thank you for saying that, Tom.
Yeah. What? There's a whole nother section I want to get into, but like, what does the future hold? Years from now with you and the software. I mean, can you tell us where it's headed towards, or anything without sort of like, giving us your master plan behind the scenes?
Yeah. I mean, the things that we need to start thinking about is all the powerful and technology that's coming online at a really rapid pace, right? And a lot of these technologies, yes, AI, but also just kind of like data, like in the ability to aggregate data in really meaningful ways and then distribute it and present it back to people, it's at a totally different level than it's ever been in the history of our kind of technology journey. And so the types of things that our customers will start to experience and see is greater visibility into their day-to-day operation. We already provide like tons of like data for our customers consume that makes it easier for them to budget, that makes it easier for them to have confidence in their estimates going out and allowing their estimates to go out with speed to the customer base. It already creates the ability for them to create systems for their entire organization. But where you're going to start to see rapid changes is like high visibility, high simplicity in terms of being able to consume the business. There's going to be things that were 5, 6, 7 clicks that will start to become intuitively like one click, because natural behavior pattern software will do the rest for you behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And so I always think about those things though. Like, I don't know if you've noticed this. Like, technology is kind of judged on how easy it makes your life.
Totally.
Like the technology that you love the most is going to be the one that is like this thing, for example, this, love it and hate it, but like one of the things that's so powerful about it is it allows me to do so much stuff so much simpler than I ever had to do it before. Right. And that's what you should start to expect out of all software, but Element in particular. We're going to create a lot more visibility to empower our customers to make really good decisions. We're going to create natural behavior performance within the system that just reduces friction and toil within the organization. And then that'll allow our customers to focus on the things that they're really good at, like selling deals, right? Managing the project, right? Hitting it on time, right? And separating themselves from the competition. So those are the things that you should start to expect.
Wow, that's great. I mean, it's a tool. It's a tool in your truck. It's a tool out in the field, a tool in the office that has you the ability to see how you're doing along the way. And everyone uses the same tool. So there's a sense of consistency.
That's right.
In your business. It's no different than any company outside of landscaping. Like, own a restaurant, there's a system, a POS. It is what it is. When you sell, basketball shoes, It is what it is. This is
Right.
what we use, and this is what we train to it. So highly recommend it. Let's talk about some leadership things. This is you've got an interesting background. I want to talk about building a winning team. I mean,
Yeah.
CEO of the member clicks for 15 plus years, and then single ops and LMN. Like, you've had teams. I compare a lot to sports because I like sports, right?
Me too.
And you as well. How do we build a winning team, and what does that mean?
Whew. Just
Damn.
just going to punch me in the face with it, right?
Yeah.
I think the easiest way to build a winning team is to like lean in heavily to core values and mission. Like, this is
Oh,
not rocket science. And I think when we were in Orlando, I got up in front of everybody and started talking about how do you leverage core values,
yeah.
in order to build winning teams. And it starts like at the very beginning. Like, values are not designed to just go on a wall, Tommy, right? They're not designed just to be written down once and then just kind of put inside or put on a website, right? Core values are designed to screen folks, to bring them into your team, right? They're designed to like talk to your folks when we're not performing. We're not living out our core values. They're designed to radiate to your customers. They're designed to radiate to your partners and your vendors and your distributors, right? And what I know is your core values can be whatever your core values are, because they've got to be authentic to you, especially if you're building a company, right? Like, it's you and 5 or 10 people today, but you want it to be 40 and 50 tomorrow. Or for me, it's, 200 today and I want it to be 400 or 500 tomorrow, right? Like, it all matters. The core values have to be authentic to you, and you have to be able to speak to how they drive the operation and the mission of the organization. And I think core values are so important in terms of driving winning teams and getting people, like you talk, like sports teams, like the best sports teams to ever exist in the history of time. I won't share some of my favorites because I don't want to create like friction. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But the best teams ever, they all talk about the same thing. Hey, we all kind of lived by the same ethos, right? Like, we all were on the same wavelength because we knew this is exactly like Alabama. Not a fan, but mad respect, right?
Totally.
They talked about the process, Tommy, right? And everybody's trusting the process. Those are like core value type things. Like, do your job, right? Like, that's a core value for Alabama, right? And so I think leaning heavy into core values and then putting the umbrella of the mission. Hey guys, we're going to live out these core values to accomplish this. And our this is to impact an industry, help folks unlock their potential, and allow them to create customers for life. It's no more complicated than that, right? And so you lean into those core values, you attract people that live and breathe and are like excited by those core values, who look at your mission and say, I want to be part of that. And then all of a sudden building a team becomes really powerful. The next step in that, like, this is like operational now, is you got to develop the heck out of it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that was also attracted me to LMN was Greenius. We have an awesome platform that allows our landscaping customers to go in, and once they've attracted that right talent, once people are motivated by the mission, you can help develop them and develop their career and allow them to engage and make the business better and create further ripple. It's pretty amazing how all those things tie together. And so we just want to continue to leverage that.
All right. So true is, and you talk about this a lot in your presentation in Orlando, and I was kind of blown away. Actually, Mark, I was like, who is this guy on stage, talking about this? And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, I got to pay attention and learn from this. But it's kind of what I believe in too. And we focus on as owners is like, give me your resume. What can you do? Right. Where's your experience? What have you done? And it's less about that. It's more about building a company with awesome people.
Right.
Right. Because then the law of attraction happens where more awesome people want to come work for an awesome company. And then all we got to do, Mark, is just train and develop and coach and mentor. That's this secret sauce.
You
right?
nailed it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that what happens in small businesses, because I actually still consider us a small business. I mean, we're many millions in revenue, thousands of customers, a couple hundred employees. I look at us and say, we're still a small business, right? What happens is you get so focused on the day to day like the things that are like right in,
Task.
yeah. And like what's in front of me for this month, or and one of the dangers that happens for folks that are leaders is like, what's the most pressing emergency that comes up? And like the trick is if you're attracting the right people, they're motivated by the mission, you're developing their career in a really methodical way, and you're coaching and mentoring, all that stuff starts to kind of like bubble down to the rest of the organization, and you continue to get to focus on what's next. What am I driving to? What am I pushing us for? Right. And that's where you start to create unlocked potential.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so from my perspective, like just get really dialed there and focused and make it part of your like everyday talk track.
Yeah. You're the CEO. What is your role in a CEO? Like I want to compare that to your role as a software company focused on landscape owners and managers and entire teams. And I want our audience to understand like what it means to be a CEO in a landscape company is what, right? You can't call yourself really a CEO if you're managing $500,000 of business. It
Sure.
doesn't really work. You're kind of more owner operator. But I want our audience to understand what it's like. A lot of conversations we have in peer groups and coaching and things is like, what do I do as a CEO? I don't understand because listen, I had a mower in my truck, and that's
Right.
I was getting money in college. No different than you and all of us.
Right.
We all had
Right.
that. But like, how the hell do I be a CEO? Like, no one understands that, what that is. Can you provide some context to that?
Yeah, it's a good question. First and foremost, you're learning every day, right? Like what I've realized about being a CEO, because when we started MemberClicks, there was only like 5 or 6 of us, like
Hmm.
just just dudes
Hmm.
staring around at each other, saying like, how are we going to do this, right?
What do we do?
Right? Yeah, like, and it's the same thing. It's like you're starting a landscaping company. You've got two, accounts, and you're looking around. And you're like, now you've got 1 or 2 people that are dependent on you. You're trying to figure out how to grow, all that good stuff, that owner operator stuff. But one of the things that I like to encourage everyone to think about is you're learning how to be a CEO every step of the way,
Yeah.
right? If you think about some of the greatest CEOs that ever lived, like, in the pantheon of CEOs, whoever you want to choose, but like if you're just looking at technology, look at somebody like Steve Jobs or Bezos or Bill Gates. Like these people have reached the pinnacles of Elon Musk, the pinnacles of the success. If you go back to their origin story, what were they doing? They were doing the thing.
The work. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But I think the thing that made them so different was their willingness to engage, their willingness to have a growth mindset, their willingness to learn, their willingness to ask the question why, and then ask it again, and then ask it again and again and again and again.
Mhm.
And then willing to push themselves into areas that they weren't comfortable, right? Like, that's not my sweet spot. I get it. And it doesn't have to be the best thing you're at, but you got to at least understand it and know it. So going from that kind of like, what I will say, like operational leader to CEO, i.e., I'm dictating the direction of the organization. I'm making sure that I'm driving results. I'm making sure that our mission and values are like part and parcel to everything that we do within the organization. It just takes that growth mindset, and it takes your willingness to go into uncomfortable places, and it takes your willingness to synthesize information. Like I think the biggest thing that I'm asked to do on a day in and day out basis is just consume a bunch of information, distill it down, mirror it to what we're trying to accomplish from a goal perspective, and then communicate that to the rest of the organization and the community, obviously, like this, right? And so I think growth mindset, your ability to kind of keep consuming information and then simplify it down, that's when you start to become a CEO, because there's a lot of complexities that come with getting bigger and bigger.
Very good. It all comes down to the engagement of people,
Helping them.
making sure that you're still having the mission and the values along. I mean, quite frankly, the CEO is also a mid-level manager. You got private equity investors and stuff that you got to report to, right? But then you got a team to sort of delegate and empower and work through things. And so it's no easy task. There's no magic button. But what I would recommend is I love how you just said it's just learning how to be that person and
Right.
developing and asking questions along the way. I think it's great. I get that question all the time. What you had a great quote, and I looked this up. This is getting probably. I dig deep, right? I dig really deep,
I
and
like it. Yeah.
so I have a question: how to lead, and it all of a sudden you said something that says change is inevitable, but how you lead through it shares the future. Explain what all that means.
Yeah. I mean, change is like, that's one of the
And
things
here we
you're
are. You're going through change now.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, even people who say they love change, like it fatigues them.
Yeah.
Right. But one thing that we know is true is change, right? Like your question earlier around like, hey, I talk to folks all the time and they say like, this is how I've always done it. But what I can guarantee you is is being done has changed. Like all the things that are around that the way I've always done it has changed. And so how you embrace change is really
You
important.
just took the words out. I was considering saying like embrace the change. Like if
Right.
you hit that head on instead of going change, ooh, it has a negative connotation.
Correct.
You're already sort of like one step behind, right?
Right, right.
Right.
Yeah, and I think one of the keys to getting people to more and more comfortable with change is demonstrating to them that you're going to learn what you're doing wrong and what you're doing right. Right? Like it can't just be change for the sake of change. It's got to be, hey, this is a
This
change
is
that
why.
I think this is going to have a positive impact. I actually have a vision for how it's going to have a positive impact. Here's that vision. Here's what I think we need to do in order to accomplish that vision. Are we going to make mistakes along the way? 100%. And so, but you've got to communicate back to your teams. Hey, when things aren't working, we want to know why. We want to better understand. We want to learn from those things that aren't working so that we doesn't mean that the change is wrong. It just means we might need to tweak the plan. It means we might need to move this here and move this piece over there. It means we might need a new human to kind of do this job, right? And you might actually be doing another job that's like way more impactful to that change, right? So I think in order to like do change management really well, constant communication, a willingness, again, curiosity. We talked about it earlier, like the willingness to learn. You have to be curious, right? And you have to ask questions, but you've got to keep going back to this is the why. This is the why behind the change. It can't just be the change. It has to be the why.
Someone that's starting out or in the middle of a software implementation and they're kind of bogged down and or they don't know where to start or they've had it in their box for 2 years and they do a little bit of clocking in but the rest is there. What advice do you give those owners and managers of those companies?
So I think the first advice I give is, and this is advice anytime I'm having a problem, find a peer or a mentor that has done it and like lived it out, right? Like coming to like, for example, like Element and Single Ops have all these tools available to our customers, like videos, tutorials, articles, live virtual trainings, in-person trainings, right? There's tons of stuff that's always available to folks to learn and like get them out of that rut. But the single most powerful thing that I've always seen is just finding people that look and talk and walk a lot like you from an operational perspective, and then going and like watching and learning and asking questions and seeing how they are leveraging it. Because that'll translate one to one, Tommy, back to like, oh, this is why I need to do this. This is how it could be impactful. And you can actually start to draw a through line to like people's names or like processes within your organization because you're seeing them replicated somewhere else. I think that's part of the power of like, ACE peer groups and McFarland Stanford and putting people together, to learn from each other. I think that like if I were to start anywhere, I'd start there.
Yeah. Good point. I'll add to that. It's like a sports team. Rely on someone on your team,
Right.
i.e., another company that went through it. I guarantee you they embraced the change and they went through challenges and they were ready to throw the computer out the window and say, I'm done with this. But they kept moving forward. It's almost like a coach and a mentor that you can say, and I love to do this. Company A is trying to do it and company B has already done it. Put those two together. A lot of times they may not listen to me, totally fine. But when you put them two together and they can talk the same and relate,
Right.
not done it and done it, that to me is the power of the community and peer groups and coaches to get you through those tough, crazy, insane times of the word software and development. That's what we're all here for. And I think you guys have a great community. Some of the best customer service I've ever seen at any organization, dedicated account managers. The other recommendation I have is to put things on your schedule consistently to work on it to improve.
Oh yeah, for
Same
sure.
day, same time,
Right.
same team, implementer, and get those people involved. It's for like 2 hours every Tuesday and just hammer it out. When you have consistency of developing something and change, the rest is history because you're going to tackle it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like anything. I couldn't agree more, by the way, Tommy. But like, I think the other thing that's just like software or change, like it's anything, like anything else in life, like the beginning is the hardest part. Right.
Like going to workout is hard. And that
Right. Yeah.
you do it for so long, you crave it.
You could 100%. Same thing with like, changing your diet, like not going on a diet, but like just taking something out of your diet. Like, for example, like periodically I'll go on a 5-day fast, like once every like 4 or 5 months. Like I'll just go on a 5-day fast. There's like a little water concoction that I drink. But when I do that, I hate day one. Like I am literally I'm an insane person too. Like nobody wants to be around me in those days. But once I'm in day 5, my body feels totally different, and I've radically changed my view on food. By the way, just in 5 days, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like anything in life, like doing it, like starting something is the hardest part, right? And then, by the way, if starting something and it's hard, it's probably really worth doing. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Let's take a moment. Take care of yourself. You've been given one body, one
That's right,
mind,
man.
one brain.
Amen.
Take care of yourself. I feel like if that is a importance in your lifestyle every day, I think change in your business, CEO, software, leading becomes easy.
It all ties together.
Mhm.
Yeah, it all ties together like that.
Mhm.
I mean, because you bring all of you
Yeah. Right. All in.
wherever you
All in.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All in.
My mom used to tell me, like, Mark, you're not leaving yourself behind.
Yeah.
You're following you everywhere you go.
So true. So true. Super awesome conversation. I want to hit some
Been
highlights, Mark, and then I'm going to ask you one more question. So, use your peers and mentors to help you out in any change, whether it be software or anything. Those
100%.
coaches and peers and mentors along the way, find one, get multiple, use them. I love the community, the ripple effect, new terminology. It's not like white water rafting, nor is it stagnant water. It is a ripple and consistency along the way. I love the role of the CEO is mentorship, drive results, mission, vision, core values. The future of Element has gotten tons of great visibility, systems, and simple. I love this term, behavior pattern software. That's just like the hair on my arms just, I love it. It's fascinating. Trust the process, develop people, be all in on your mission, core values, and don't let it collect dust and out of sight, out of mind. Pretty thing, because I got to check the box. My favorite one of all time, embrace change. I always say embrace the suck. It is what it is. Tackle it head on. Curiosity, lots of learning and questions. Wow.
Lots of stuff.
Lots of great stuff. Mark, what's one general advice that you live and die by? It's a quote or it's something you do on your daily procedures, family, business, whatever. Like, give me one thing that you are all in on.
The obstacle is the way.
Which is a book.
It is, but it's also just it's a way of thinking about life, right? Like you just said it, like embrace change, fall in love with the problem. At the top of a mountain, there's another mountain, right? And so I've just learned, like, you can't go around obstacles. You can't avoid obstacles. The obstacle is the way. Just go, right? And I think that's so important. Yeah.
So true. I used to avoid that back in early my career. And I think that's normal as a young professional. You're like, ooh, tough conversations, things you may not want to do, but has to be done.
That's right.
Hit them head on. And quite frankly, hit them on first thing. Just get those things knocked out and go. But great book. I've got it in my bookcase, The Obstacles Away. I've read it once. I think I need to reread it again. I got a referral from a friend, and fascinating book.
Great book.
Yeah, I love it. Mark, you're super awesome. we're going to have you on consistently to kind of update us with the change. I think that'd be awesome. Sort of like a
Love
quarterly
that.
change pod, right? And embracing it, talk about things that are not working and things that are working along the way. You're a rock
100%.
star, bud.
I appreciate that.
This is coming out very soon. And so thank you for taking time out of a busy schedule of running a CEO and
All
of
the
an
stuff.
awesome company.
Yeah. Thank you, Tommy. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and also to speak to your greater community. And I love the stuff that you guys are doing at McFarland Stanford. You're making the industry better and you're having the impact that we're trying to have too. So I love the fact that we were able to sit down and have a conversation today.
Awesome stuff, Mark. We'll stay in touch and we'll go from there.
Ready to take the next step? Download our free profitability scorecard to quickly create your own baseline financial assessment and uncover the fastest ways to improve your business. Just go to mcfarlandstanford.com/scorecard to get yours today. To learn more about McFarland Stanford, our best-in-class peer groups, and other services, go to our website at mcfarlandstanford.com, and don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. See you next time on The Roots of Success.